there, this is Jennifer Vanderbeek from scrapsoflife.com. As an artist in residence for Imagine, we are pairing up with Suzy Stamps this month for a hop, and I was absolutely drawn to these Goddess of the Seasons stamps. These are individual stamps from Suzy Stamps, and there's the Goddess of Winter, there's the Goddess of Spring, there's the Goddess of Autumn, and the Goddess of Summer. I think I've got them all in there. And they're all sold individually, but for me, I could not just order one, even though I definitely have favorite seasons. I totally had to have all of them. And while, of course, I plan on using them individually in the future, for at least one project, I really needed to use them all. So I'm going to make this big fold-out 5-panel card, and I am going to start by embossing each image using Versamark ink and white embossing powder on white watercolor paper, because we're going to do a very water-intensive, a very wet technique here. Since I am going to do 4 of these, I am using plastic plates as my palette rather than working directly on the craft mat. Absolutely, you could just go directly to the craft mat. I was just trying to make this quick for the video. Once the images are embossed, I am taking a large brush that's called a mop brush, and I am spreading some water onto my embossed image on that watercolor paper. I'm using an array of different fireworks sprays, all-purpose inks, even some walnut ink thrown in there, and I am doing a very loose wet-on-wet technique, allowing the inks to just run where the water is. As the water wicks the pigment around, it's creating these interesting swirls and mixes of color and allowing that white embossing to show through. It might be a little tough to see on the video while I'm working on it in the detail that these stamps are, because they are wonderfully detailed, but you will see at the end. And basically that's all this is. I'm using the mop brush to put down some water, and then I'm using another brush that I am dampening and then putting into my mediums of choice. I'm using 3 or 4 colors per card, keeping them in the general tone range of the season, or at least what speaks to me, and using a smaller paintbrush to kind of gently direct some of the color, not being super controlled with it, because this is kind of a experiment in chaos, you could almost say. And then as each panel was completed, I set it aside to dry. I ended up setting it on a completely different desk because I'm like, oh, I'm gonna bump these. And like I said, you want to use a heavy watercolor paper. I'm using a Fabriano 25% cotton, and it's holding up really well. I think they each have their own kind of like organic beauty to them. Although, yes, winter is my favorite of all of these. I just love that mix of blue and silver. I'm using Memento markers, the brush tips, to add winter, spring, summer, and fall. I would have normally used autumn, but for the rhyme that's going to go with the 5th panel, I opted for fall. And yes, if you have that song stuck in your head now, my apologies. You know, there are worse earworms. All these colors will be in the blog post that as a companion to this video. So, you know, if you're like wondering which colors I'm using, you can check them out there. And then I'm going to put the rest of my saying, "We've been together through them all, thank you," on the final panel, which I will then mat with a coordinating cardstock onto the accordion fold card base. The measurements for the card base and the individual panels, those are all again in the blog post. See the link down below. I had a lot of fun with this card. These stamps were super fun to work with, and I just love all the mix of colors. Like I said, winter was my favorite, but this Thank You for All Seasons card is what I'm calling it, and I just adore how it came out. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video and that you'll give this technique a try. While the ingredient list for this card does seem a little long, the technique itself is so simple and you can get so many amazing results with it that I really encourage you to give it a try. Don't forget to check out the blog post linked below to see all the products that were used in this project, and also to see what the other artists from Imagine and Suzy Stamps have to offer. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a very creative day. Bye-bye.